Welcome back, guys. Let's move on. In this tutorial, we'll be talking about tables. Now, these are just the basics of tables. We don't cover everything. So, the first thing that we're going to look at is caption. What is a table caption? And that's how you would code it, the table header, and the coding of it, the table row, and how you code it, the cell, or sometimes referred to as table data, and that's how you would code it. The border, by default, the border is not shown on an HTML table, so you need to specify the width of a border for it to show. And we're going to look at how do we use the style attribute to add some styling to our table, such as color and so forth. So in Paint, we have drawn an example of a table, or the table that we want to code for the browser. So I've done this for explaining purposes. You don't always have to do this. So the first thing that we need to discuss is that in a table we have rows, and in this particular table we have 3 rows like that, as you guys can see. And a table row is defined by tr, and then in the first row, which is this row, we have 3 table headers. Table headers are usually bold and they are centered. As you can see, these 3 are bold and they are centered. So that's how we recognize that this is a table header. A table header is usually the title for each column. The next thing is a table cell, and as you can see, we have 3 in each row. We have 3 in this row, and we also have 3 in this particular row. And a table cell is defined by, which stands for table data, and a table header is defined by th. And the last thing we need to look at is caption. So a caption usually appears here, which is the title of the entire table. By default, in HTML, the title appears at the top left corner of the table. Using styling, we can move it to the center, which it will appear about here, or we could move it to the bottom of the table, which looks better. A table caption is defined by the tag caption. So let's start coding this table. Let's open Notepad++. As we said in the last video, we are going to use Notepad++ from now on. If you don't have Notepad++, you can still use Notepad, which works absolutely fine. The page will appear the same on a browser regardless of which editor you used. So let's open Notepad++. And let's create a new file by clicking here. And we need to enter the basic structure of an HTML page. Like we said, we don't have to type this over and over again. You can simply go to our footnote account where we save the basic structure and copy and paste it from there. So we're in footnote now, and I'm just going to log in using my account. On the snippets where I saved it, I'm going to search for bare bones. And as you can see, it appears there. Click on it, and that's a basic structure of an HTML page. I'm going to copy and paste it in our code, and as you can see, that's the advantages of footnote. We don't have to keep on typing the same thing over and over again. So let's save this in our usual folder, which is found at the desktop. You can save it wherever you want to save it. It's absolutely fine. We're going to call this table Don't forget the important part, which is .html. Save it. And then I made each window smaller so we can see the browser and the code at the same time. And as you can see, we haven't done much yet. Let's first change the title to tables. Refresh it, change to HTML tables. And when you're defining a table, the first thing that we do, we use the table tag. Every part of the table will go inside the table tag. So the first thing that we need to define is the caption. So the caption, we said that is the title of the entire table, right? So we can say here, and by default it will appear at the top right hand corner of the table. We can save it and see so far what we've done since it's table results. And then we need to define each row. We need to define each row as we said. So we have rows. We're going to enter one row, and within the first row we have the table headers, and we said that you define a table header using the th tags. And you remember in our drawing we had 3 table headers, so this will define one table header being name in this case. So we also need another one for surname. I'm going to copy and paste it. We're going to change it to surname. So this will be our second table header, and we also need another table header of which it has to have its own opening th tag and closing th tag. So this one is result, or let's call it mark. So we're going to have 3 table headers: name, surname, and mark. And with each table header needs to have its own opening and closing. As you can see, this opening and closing tag is for surname, and this opening and closing tag are for the mark. We need to have another row. This time we don't enter th because it's not the title of this column. The title of the first column is name, and the first entry in the table is for the student Luyanda. We need to say td, so this we use td to define a table cell or table data. So in the first entry, the first cell will read Luyanda. So this will be directly underneath name. And then we need to enter another table cell or table data, whichever term that you want to use. So this Luyanda's surname will appear directly underneath this table header. So now I think you get the picture. So this will appear underneath this will appear underneath that, and we need to enter the actual mark, which will appear underneath the mark heading. So Luyanda did not do well in the test, so we're going to give him 32. We need to enter another row. So for each row you enter a tr and a closing tr tag every time for each and every row. So we want another row. So in this row, which is the third row, because as you can see it's 1, 2, and this is the third row, we want to enter another entry in the table. So the first, as we said, we're going to enter 3 table cells. So we can just copy and paste this 3 times. This will appear underneath this will appear underneath that, and this will appear underneath that. So let's enter another student, and Lerato did excellent in the test. Like, these are the basics of tables. As we said, we have caption, which a caption does not need to go under or inside a row because it's going to be outside the table. That's why. If we go and refresh here, you can see the test result is outside the table. So that's why we don't enclose it in the TR tags, right? So the first row, we need to have headings. As you can see there, we have 3 headings. How can we tell that they are headings? They are bold and they are centered. And each heading needs to have an opening and a closing tag. An opening and a closing tag. So as you can see, Mark has an opening TH and a closing TH tag with the / there. And we need to enter another row. So each time when you're entering a row, you say TR and you close it like that. Inside this row, we have this student's information, and for each cell we need to have an opening TD and a closing TD, which has the / and so forth. I think you get it. Let's now try and style our table so that it looks like the table we drawn on Paint. So the first thing we need to do is send the caption to the bottom. We said that the caption by default it appears at the top, so now we need to send it to the bottom of the table. So we do this by going inside the caption opening tag, and we say style. Inside the quotations we say caption side. So I'm just going to move this so we can see it. Make this smaller. So we say caption side and we say bottom. So by default it says top there. Refresh it, and as you can see, the caption now goes to the bottom of the table. We can further style the caption and make it appear in italics. Remember, for italics, so we need to separate each styling using a semicolon. This semicolon. So when you make text italics, we say font style italic. We save it, we refresh on the browser, and now as you can see it's italic. So we want to see the entire code. Remember, we can move this below like that. That will not make any difference because we said that multiple spaces in HTML is rendered as a single space. So that is why we are allowed to do this. When we save it, as you can see in the browser, there are no changes. So with in the first row, we can do this. We can even format this using this. If you prefer it this way, you can use this way. This will not make any difference in terms of how it appears on the browser. So the first thing we need to note is that, as you can see, the table does not have any borders. We can use the border attribute to show the table border. So by default this is in pixels. We can say 1, save it, refresh on the browser, and as you can see the browser now has borders. But I need to inform you that this attribute is being phased out in HTML5. So now you need to use the style attribute to show borders within the table. So I explained this fully in the book. You can look at the book and see how we do it there. So with this table we do not want borders. So I'm just going to remove the borders again, right? Because we want our table to look exactly like the way we drew it on Paint. So if you remember, on the drawing, or in the drawing rather, the first column, let's look at the drawing. So as you can see, the first row is a dark bluish color, so we need to get that color there, and the text is white. So when we style the first row, we will say style, and we can customize the background, the color, using the background attribute. So we will say blue. Save it, go to the browser, refresh, and now as you can see there, now the first row is blue. Separate the next styling using the semicolon, and say that color white. Now this will change the color of the text in the table. In the next row, we have a light blue color. So for the next row, we need to define the background to light blue. Save it, go to the browser and refresh, and now as you can see, it's a light bluish color. Remember that we did not cover this in the previous tutorials, so just pay attention. In terms of defining colors in HTML, we don't always need to use the color names. If you go to Paint, Paint will give us so in HTML we can also use the hexagonal values of colors instead of the color names. So Paint will give us the hexadecimal value of each color. If I click more here, so I'm using paint.net. It's a free software. You can download it off the internet. You just search for paint.net and you'll get it there. So when I use this tool, which grabs the color, if I click there, it grabs this blue and it tells me that the hexadecimal value for this color is this. So I can copy this, go to the code and paste it in there. And I need to have a hash in front of it. Save it, refresh, and now it's the exact same color that we used in Paint. We can do the same for the second row. Use this tool to grab the second color. Use this tool to grab the color of the second row, and it tells me the hexadecimal value for this color. I can copy and paste it in the code. And I need to have hash. Save it, go to the browser, refresh, and now it's the exact same color as we saw in the table. So for the third row, we're going to do the same thing. Grab the color, get the hexadecimal value, copy it. We need to paste it in. Don't forget to put the hash in front of the hexadecimal value. Save it, refresh, and now we have a nice color like that. So a table is starting to look exactly the way we defined it in Paint. But as you can see, everything is just crammed inside. So to open up the table, we need to use the padding attribute, which will go in each table header or table cell. And padding is defined with pixels. You can use centimeters, millimeters, whatever you prefer, but pixels is the standard that we use when we're coding HTML pages. So as you can see now, name is nicely opened up. We can say 20, refresh, and now like it's open, as you can see. So we can do this for each and every table header, refresh, and now everything is opened up like that. As you can see, there are white spaces between each table cell. If we don't want that space, we can use the border collapse attribute. So the border collapse attribute goes in the styling of the entire table. So we say border collapse and colon and then collapse. And then this is going to close these white spaces between the table, the cells rather. You refresh it, now those white spaces are gone. If you do want the spaces there, you can just remove that border collapse attribute, and by default it adds the white spaces there. So those are the basics of tables. I hope you had fun. Please do read the chapter on tables, the book, and you'll get more understanding and you'll gain more knowledge. So see you in the next tutorial.